Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about a board game that is really fun to me. I just got a copy of it recently, but I've played it long beforehand, called Massive Darkness. Massive Darkness is a dungeon crawling game, and it's a quite heavy one, I might add, by the way, because it is a miniature game. So bear with me while I try to show off some of this stuff, because it's a miniature game, and this will probably tip over, but this that you're seeing here is lots and lots and lots of little miniatures, like so. Now, this sort of game is basically you pick a group of people, like say 3 or 4 players, each one of you goes into the game, and you pick out a hero and you pick out a class, and you use one of these character sheets. Now, it looks plain, but basically right here goes your character card. Then down here is your weapon slots, and all these little marks on here is your experience points that you have built up, your health, yada yada yada. Now, this game has well over 200 miniatures, and it's also really common for people to want to paint all of this, which can be, let's just say, a very long and fucking painful process. Let's just say that. But if you got the patience and you got the time, it is absolutely worth it. Let me pull out some of the bosses and such here. These are roaming monsters that can just appear inside of your dungeons. The way the game works is essentially you get 3 actions a turn. You go into the dungeon. Let's see, if I recall right, what it is you can do 2 movements per point. So basically they're half a point. Then 1 point action is opening a door, which you'll do often. I'll give you an example right here on this. These tiles here are rooms. Yeah. And you would put, for example, a door right here. Whenever an adventurer would come up to this point and open the door, you would spend an action point, and then it would reveal everything that's in this room, both of these tiles here. And what you would do is you would draw door cards. And the door cards will tell you there's a treasure here, there's also an enemy guard, there's 2 treasures here. And then you would go through your set and pull out, for example, chess pieces. And yes, there is actual chess parts for this game. And then you would also pull out the soldiers as well as their boss. The way this works is that they actually fight in gangs, more or less. The enemy does. So you would have, for example, one of these guys, and then you would have surrounded around him 3 or 4 lower minions, basically. And in order to get to him, you've got to kill all the little minions that are in the way. They're essentially just his bodyguards. Now, while all that's going on, obviously they're going to be trying to kill you. And at the end of every turn, you have to draw an event card, which can, more often than not, be a bad thing. But every once in a while, it'll be a good thing. But usually, that's where a lot of these roaming monsters come in. Here's another example of one. Oh, let me get it on camera. There we go. My finger out of the way. And these guys don't mess around. They are leveled up based on how many players there are, based on, let's see, whatever weapon, the card that you draw for them, which can make them substantially harder than what they were already if they get something really good. But if you beat them, you get to keep that weapon. There is a lot of different cards to this game. There is a lot of tiles, as you can see here. These are all tiles. They all go match together. They've got numbers in the corners, such as right here, 5R. And there is a campaign for this as well. Now, the traditional way of this does not involve the campaign, but I personally always do the campaign because I prefer a story. Even if it's just a weak one that gives me just an excuse to go in the dungeon, I prefer a story. But essentially, the way this normally works is you go through these tiles, right? At certain points throughout the game, there will be a number on the board. And that number, in the normal version of the game, not including the campaign story or anything, the normal version of the game, basically the minute a player crosses that border, the whole dungeon levels up. So if there's a 2 here and you're starting the dungeon, you're level 1, immediately everybody would gain up to level 2 and can now use their experience points to get the skills that are on their little character sheets. Now, that also means the roaming monsters just got harder as soon as somebody crossed it, so ideally you don't want to cross it unless you have to, or you're about to rush to the next area. Now, at the end of every turn, there is, if I recall right, that's what this one is. There is a player token, and you pass this to the next person who's going to be first in line. Basically, you go in clockwise order, and whoever has the token, they're the first person to make an action that turn, and then they'll pass it to the next person, and next time it'll be their turn to go first, and he'll end up going last, the one before. Essentially, with the story, how it changes it is that you get, instead of getting experience points normally that you can use to buy skills, like right away, you get micro experience. It basically slows down the game quite a bit. And the micro experience is, hang on, I can pull this one out, up here. Now, instead of getting 1 experience point per monster group that you beat in the non-story, in the story you actually get these, and once you get it down to 10, then you get an experience down here. They do that basically to slow down the game so that you don't have all your skills immediately. But if you want just a quick-paced, rapid-fire, go through the game quickly, then you want to do the non-story, obviously. Because that, you'll get your skills fast, you'll level up fast because you're just going straight through the dungeon. The monsters will be harder and harder, quicker and quicker, so on and so forth. Now, as you can probably tell just from this box, this is a lot of stuff. But this isn't all of it by a large margin. Here was what they added in their Kickstarter. Their Kickstarter has even more roaming monsters. Big ones too, I might add. It also added an extra campaign after you finish the story. It also added new tiles for that campaign. Basically, more. And let me tell you, variety is the spice of life when it comes to this kind of game, because in the base game, I can tell you from experience that it gets a little tedious fighting the same starter, well, not bosses, but the same starter enemies in rooms. You'll always be fighting goblins. You'll always be fighting orcs. You'll always be fighting dwarves for some reason. So that gets kind of old. But the roaming monsters really spice it up, and they come rapid fire when the luck's not your way. They're there all the time. All the time. So, with that said, there's expansion packs on top of the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter more or less doubles the content, in my opinion, of this. Simply with all that extra little boss monsters like these, which are really the highlight of this game, in my opinion, because they're fantastic. You may not be able to tell because of my camera, but these babies are really well detailed. They really, once you paint these things up, they would really look nice. This right here is the Hellhound, for example. And let me tell you, just look up a couple painting videos of this character right here, and you'll see just how great they could look. Now, expansion packs. This game has a ton of them. For example, I mentioned the chests. Yes, these were an expansion pack. There's also another expansion pack that adds physical doorways as opposed to the plastic containers. This is a pillars and chests to add the 3D to the game. There's also, let's see, bridges and doors was the other one of this. And let me tell you, that one's expensive. But if you played any other kind of game similar to this, Dungeon Crawler, you probably already have doors. So, it's kind of moot. Another expansion they have here is this kind. This one is called the Noble Warriors vs. the Cockatrice. What do you get in this? Well, you get a new character sheet. See, I didn't show y'all what one of these looks like. This is like your level up sheet. These are your classes, basically. Any person can pick any class that they want to pick, regardless of the hero. It's just that obviously some of them are better at being a mage than others just because they have a natural ability that does it. But they don't have to be. And yes, there is hero miniatures. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can pop this open. I'll show you one for this particular expansion. Yeah. This is one of the heroes. And yes, you can paint these too. And here is the roaming boss of this one, the Cockatrice. Here, let me hold the back of his tail. Give you a better view. Yeah. Now, isn't that nice looking? Then, of course, add just a handful of cards to change things out. This is like your character cards. Here, I'll show you what a character card looks like. You would put that in your little hero dashboard, I believe they call it, which is kind of dumb to me, but whatever. It's their game. Now, not all the expansions come with characters as far as heroes and class sheets and all that. They also have enemy boxes, which is part of what I was complaining about earlier, in that if you're just playing the vanilla game, it gets really boring just because, well, not boring, but like, it gets tedious fighting the same groups of bad guys in the doors. And that's where the enemy boxes come in. Enemy boxes such as this add both a boss monster as well as more of the roaming, well, I mean not roaming, more of the monsters that you would fight in gangs. More, let's see, what do they call them specifically? I know one of them that they call is agents, which work the same way as the actual bosses and the minions. But he's just a lot harder by himself. Yeah, right here. This is what I was looking for. Here is the Troglodyte army with a Minotaur as the big bad. Actually, I probably don't even have to take it out of the telephone. It'll show you. Oops. Oops. This is the cards for them. Obviously, each of these, as you can see here, here's the Minotaur. Then over here, you can see all the different Troglodyte soldiers, as well as, I'll check here, an agent. The agents usually use daggers for whatever bloody reason, which I found strange. Now, I've got a couple of these expansion packs here. There's also another way where they're devious, by the way. I'll tell you that right now. If you buy the Kickstarter version, while I'm thinking about it, make sure that yours comes with the replacement card pack. This was a set of cards they made whenever they were originally making this game to replace the ones they screwed up. There's quite a few of them that had misprints at the time when they did the Kickstarter, but they also gave out these to everybody. So if you're going to get the old Kickstarter edition, make sure that yours comes with a replacement card pack, if you decide you want it. Another thing that they have that's really devious, in my opinion, they have this game set up to where it works with their other games. Now, what do I mean by that? They have these card packs set up for all these different games that this company, CMON, makes, where the heroes of Massive Darkness works with the heroes of Zombicide Dark Plague, which is another game that came out right about the same time as this. And it plays similar to it. A little bit different rules, But overall, if you sat down and you were just looking at a board and you didn't know what it was, you would say, oh, this looks like a zombie version of Massive Darkness. They also did the same thing with Green Horde, which is, they don't claim it's an expansion, they claim it's a standalone game. I call bullshit, but it's their games, so you gotta go with what they say. Now, these little card packs that they use, you buy this separate, but essentially what it does is it allows all the heroes from Dark Plague and some of the zombies from Dark Plague to be used inside of Massive Darkness. And it also allows Massive Darkness heroes to now be used inside of the Zombicide Black Plague game. And it's a good thing if you like both games, but it also is really devious because it means, oh, well, if I want to have another roaming army, if I want to have another door army, if I want to have more variety to my game, well, then I want to go out and get Zombicide Black Plague. That way I've got this whole row of zombie miniatures. But then you sit down and think about it, and you're like, oh, well, look how much room all this takes up. Because, I mean, look at this box. Times this by 2 for the Kickstarter. And then you've got all these little miniature boxes here. And, by the way, there is, I would say, just offhand 11 of these. Half of them being hero and monster boxes. Half of them being these enemy boxes. And then probably just the 2 door and bridges and chests and pillars thing to go with it. And there's also, if you wanted the Kickstarter, there's also cards for playing the dice for this. They got special dice just for Kickstarter people, which doesn't really matter, honestly. Let me show you a few of the cards. These are the oddest cards. I don't know why they have these tiny ass cards. I don't like that. You would think they can afford to make all these freaking miniatures, they'd be able to make a card that's actually huge. Oh, I got it upside down. Hang on. Healing potion. You would think, oh, okay, this card would be a normal playing card size. No, look how tiny. Door card here, like what I was talking about earlier. Let's see, what's another one here? An event card. Rarely are the events good. Let me guess, this one's a roaming monster without even looking. Nope, rear monster patrol. If there's already roaming monsters in play, activate one. If not, spawn a roaming monster. There you go. Treasure cards. Now, this is what you expect. Basically, you open up your treasure chest, you look inside, and you've got a level 2, whatever. And then, of course, armor. And yada yada yada. It's all the same. Now, how do you do combat in this game? Well, that's really simple. You use one of your action points. You go check on your dashboard all of the cards you have. For example, let's say I have this Sword of Might here. This Sword of Might, in the lower corner, has a 1 yellow. That 1 yellow means that I take a yellow dice and I roll it. And then I go and look at whatever it is I'm fighting. Let's say it's one of these little guys here, and they have a plate armor that is 2 blue. I would go take out 2 blue dice, and then I would roll those. And I would count how many shields they have versus how many swords I have on mine. If I have enough to go over their HP, this guy's out, which means I move on to the next guy. If I don't have enough, or he has more shields, or if I don't have, let's see, if I recall right, it's a diamond or an explosion effect that can also be on the dice. Let me see if I can find one of these little dice here. I probably have to dig it out. Anyway, it don't matter. You know what a dice looks like, bloody hell. So anyway, every once in a while you'll have a diamond or an explosion effect, and that can trigger a special effect if it's on the armor or the weapon that you have. For example, sometimes on, let's say, a flame wand, if you get a diamond, it means that it will also do an additional 2 wounds for guaranteed, no matter what. So what you essentially do is you roll your dice, you look, you say, okay, I got 1 sword, 1 diamond, I do 2 wounds, ignoring his armor, and then this one sword will be checked against his shields. And that's it. It's a simple game. It's not very complicated, and that's really why I like it. It's not complicated. It's got a lot of variety with these miniatures. The miniatures look cool. It's a fun game, in my opinion. And I first discovered this actually whenever I was online on Tabletop Simulator. I was playing with a friend of mine. And it took us a little bit to get used to the rules because the rules are funky. But it wasn't like very hard to pick up. We played a couple games and then we had it down pat. Once we just had a couple. It was just a little annoying at first because we didn't quite get the rules, or we would argue with each other over what a rule meant. You know, that sort of thing. But overall, it was pretty dang good. So, would I recommend this game? Yeah, if you are looking for something fairly simple, if you're looking for something that's got a lot of variety, then yeah, I would say this is a good game for you. Especially if you're going to buy this game, if you want to buy it just to try it, see if you like it, get the Lightbringer edition. Don't get just the base game. What really, really helps it, in my opinion, is the Kickstarter Lightbringer pack. Make sure if you're going to get the base game, you get the Lightbringer pack too. Just because it adds so much more variety to the game that's sorely, sorely needed, in my opinion, to the base game. Because mainly, my 2 main complaints about this game was, 1, the door armies are really, you get tired of seeing them all the time once you're like halfway into the campaign. And the other was that it needed a lot more variety in cards as far as armor and weapons. What tends to happen in this game, which is a big no-no in my opinion, but I'm not the one who designed it. What tends to happen is this game in particular has, let's say, level 1 spear, level 2 spear, level 3 spear, level 4 spear, level 5 spear. And each one of them is just slightly better than the other. And in my opinion, what it really, really needed was level 1 has just a regular spear, level 2 has a burning spear, level 3 has the burning spear of Wrath, so on and so forth. Basically, something that really makes them stand out each level. Like you're actually getting a massive upgrade. And in this game, that's not really, in my opinion, how it is. What this game needs, in my opinion, is a lot of personal house rules, personal cards that you should make yourself after you've played it a while to really spice it up. Make your own little miniature cards to really vamp up the whole item system in this game. That to me is the other big flaw of the game. It needs better weapons. It needs better armors. It needs more variety in that. Just like it needed variety in the door armies. But if that doesn't bother you, then it's a good game. It really is. Would I say get all the expansion packs? I don't know, just because they're just really high. They're pretty expensive for my taste. I think the cheapest one I've seen is like $35, and I've seen them go up to $100 easily, just for one of them. If it's one that you can get fairly cheap, that is heroes versus whatever, yeah, get that, just because more character classes to play is always a plus, in my opinion. It's always really good to have variety in that. It makes the game a little bit more spiced up. Would I suggest getting the enemy boxes? I think I would say play it a little while first, and then decide for yourself whether it bothers you having to fight a lot of orcs and dwarves all the time. If it does, yeah, go out and get the Zombicide crossover, go out and get the Troglodytes, go out and get, let's see, what else is there? I know there's at least 5 or 6 others. Anyway, go out and get enemy boxes, and that will really variety up the game a lot. But also make sure you got the space for it, because no kidding, this crap has an obscene amount of space that it needs to play all of this, if you're going to start collecting it all. If you're just getting the Lightbringer pack and you're just getting the base game, it's a lot of space, but it doesn't feel as not worth it as it does comparatively having 11 of these tiny ass boxes around, plus everything else. Well, that's about all I had to say for it now, anyways. I actually have the sequel coming out here pretty soon, and I've already ordered it with everything for it. I probably shouldn't have, because it was pretty expensive, but I was such a fan of this game whenever I originally played it, I was said, the next one that comes out, I want to make sure I have the whole thing from the start. No regrets. So that's what I did. That was my opinion, because it looks to me like this time they're going to have a whole lot more variety in the game, because it feels like they've learned from whatever they messed up this time, which really wasn't all that much in my opinion. A lot of it was just that they needed expansion packs to flesh it out more. Well, that's it for today. Take care, everyone.